said, perhaps I don't have much time. This message is being looped on all temporal frequencies. If you can hear this, the world is lost. Humanity is dwindling and we are the last of our kind. We ignored the signs. It started off so slow, but gradually the machines started becoming more and more like us until it was too late. Heed this warning. Don't let them in. Don't listen to them.
Oh, please listen to us. Hey, everyone, how are you? Scott Reese with Rob Cardozi here with The Rabbit Hole with Cardozi and Reese. Welcome, everyone, back for another jam-packed show. What are we talking about today, Rob?
Well, today, we're going to do something really out of the ordinary. You know, everybody knows me. I'm the professor of all things music. But this week, we're going to talk about AC/DC. And Bon Scott and everybody like that. Everybody knows AC/DC, but the professor himself here, I do not know everything there is to know about Bon Scott. That's where my co-host Scott comes into effect. You are now the man of all things music and all things AC/DC.
Now that is very scary. That's scary thinking that's have to do it, but no. AC/DC, I mean, people think, oh my God, it's 3 chords and all that. No. AC/DC put so much thought, into their music, into their chords, into how, to get everyone pumped up. And for the last, 50 years, 40 some years, they have toured big stadiums. They just toured through here in Northern California, and they're bigger than ever right now.
Yeah, they're coming through here in Las Vegas. They'll be playing at Allegiant Stadium here pretty soon.
Yeah.
So
they, it's good arena rock. You know what I mean? It gets the whole crowd going and pumping and going, and they have a great, gig. I guess I think they have everything. They have him wearing the schoolboy uniform. They have great songs. They have the original vocalist, and then they have their current vocalist.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't know that there were actually two lead vocalists. Technically, there were 3 lead vocalists of AC/DC.
Correct.
If I'm not correct,
Actually 4, if you want to do the first one. And then Bon Scott, then Brian Johnson, and there for a little while, Axl.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Axl
Rose, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I forgot about him.
Yeah, Mark Evans was the first vocalist, and then Bon Scott came in and basically took him to the top. Well, top of the heap back in the 70s. They kind of brought a whole different feel, a lot of energy to the show.
Yeah. Now, what is it? I've heard that, I do know about George Young, who is Malcolm and Angus's older brother. Now, he was in a band, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't he? And he had a recording contract or something, and he kind of helped the guys.
He was the producer, I think.
Okay.
He helped them in the beginning because he was in a band that was the local band in Australia.
Wasn't it called the Easy Beats or something like that?
I think it was. I have it. Oh God, he produced them and encouraged them. I think he saw that they had talent.
Okay.
And they he did the producing for them, and then they did their first song. And from that point on, it just took off. They really didn't do much until they got Bon Scott. They actually have a video with the original singer Dave Evans. So,
okay.
But they, and a lot of the songs were already written, and he kind of did some of the vocals over it in the beginning. And then he took off, and
wasn't Bon Scott in a band also prior to AC/DC that was kind of big in the entire UK, weren't they? Called the Valentines or something?
Correct. They were called the Spectres.
The Spectres.
Yeah, the Spectres.
Okay.
1964, he was playing drums, and he was occasionally a lead vocalist.
Okay, because didn't he do backup?
Yeah, then he went into the Valentines. So it was the Spectres, then the Valentines. and they had the first recording that he did was "Every Day I Have to Cry."
Okay,
Was
cool.
the first one, and then they became pretty popular in Australia, you know.
Yeah.
So then Bond's wife Irene Thornton later described how he first saw AC/DC and said that he was just blown away, and
Yeah.
he suggested to the band that they fire their singer and bring him on.
Oh, there you go. That's one way to get a gig, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah. Hey, your guy sucks, man. Try me out.
Yeah, take me. I'll take you to the top.
Yeah, take you to the top. Yeah, he went in 1974 was his first year with the band, and they did what was it? Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap was their first. I mean, that was the first one I did. High Voltage was their first one because there were two High Voltages when I was into them in the 70s, because I remember I got an import and it was a dog peeing on a High Voltage box.
Okay.
Yeah, that was like an import. And then because the first one I saw that came out was Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, and then it was
right.
Let There Be Rock, then High Voltage and Power Age, and then after that was Highway to Hell. But you know, I remember seeing them at a Day on the Green, and the energy and him jumping around and flopping around with the guitar and never missing a note.
Yeah.
So, you know, they did a really, you know, with their Schoolboy thing. Now, do you know who helped him with that?
If I'm not mistaken, it wasn't his sister Margaret.
That's right. That's right. Because he was Superman. He was trying to find his identity. And
Yeah, I think I seen a picture of him one time. He was actually in a Zorro costume on stage.
I think that's pretty cool. That you know, you have to find your niche. You know, you have to find what works for your band, and obviously the Schoolboy works for AC/DC.
Yeah, definitely. If I'm not mistaken, too, Margaret's the one that stitched the first A hat for Angus too.
Oh, really? The first,
from what I understand. But now I have a question for you about Bond.
Okay.
Is it true that in Long Way to the Top that he insisted they put the bagpipes in?
And he played them.
Yeah, that's why he wanted it in the song.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
He was born Ronald Belford Scott, July 9th, 1946 in Scotland. So,
okay.
Yeah, he was born in Scotland. His parents, Charles and Isabel Scott, immigrated to Australia when he was 6. And he had a brother, and I guess he, started playing drums, bagpipes. And he
I'd also heard rumors that he went to reform school for a little while.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
And that's where he learned how to play guitar. And that's when he came out. He knew right then and there he wanted to be a musician.
Well, yeah, he met the law when he was about 15, and he went to Fremantle Prison for offenses including giving false names to the police, escaping supervision, and stealing fuel.
So basically, just being a rock and roller.
Exactly. Before he was a rock and roller, he was already he was doing it. So here's my question to you: when did you first discover AC/DC?
First time I ever discovered AC/DC, I was I think I was about 8 years old, and one of my best friend's brothers was playing Dirty Deeds.
Ah, yeah.
And I heard actually being so young, we were laughing our ass off because we heard the song Big Balls. And we all know, that song is so full of double entendres, it's pathetic. But that was my first introduction to him, was hearing Dirty Deeds and Big Balls and everything like that. And I was mesmerized by not only Angus's guitar playing, but his voice. It was such a unique style of singing that he had, you know?
Basically talking, but singing,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. He had like a melody in his voice, even if he wasn't singing. It still came out as a song, and I loved it. And it captivated me. And but yeah, the Bon Scott years, I really wish I could have seen him live. I've heard that he put on one hell of a show. And then I'd also heard rumors that, you know, the famous video for Let There Be Rock
Right.
only cost him a whole 300 pounds to film the whole video.
I believe it. And
You know-
it's a live one, right?
They're on the back of a truck.
Right.
And they're just driving down in the middle of town playing
Yeah.
For Those About to Rock with 3 bagpipers, not including Bon, but Bon eventually does the solo on the bagpipe, you know?
Yeah.
But then I also I do got to give it to AC/DC, and I fully respect this, that, you know, that is one of their biggest hits.
Agreed.
And everybody know there's a lot of people out there that don't know bands and everything like that, but you play a song and everybody knows it's AC/DC. Okay. But
Well, there's two phases. Obviously, you have the Bon Scott era, and then you have the Brian Johnson era. Personally, I'm Bon Scott.
yes, yeah. I do love the Bon Scott times. I wish to God that they would still perform Let There Be Rock, but I do understand that they don't do it because out of respect for Bon. Now, let me ask you this: do you know? I do know one simple fact. I know how he got the nickname Bon.
No, I do not know that.
His sister used to say he was a bonny lad, and throughout the years, it just got shortened to Bon, and that's how he got his nickname, Bon Scott.
I see you are still the professor. Still the professor.
I know some things. I know enough just to get in trouble, right?
There you go.
But yeah, and now from what I understand, Bon Scott and Brian Johnson actually performed together for a little while. You know, doing a couple shows together with the different bands. When he was in the Fraternity, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, and Brian Johnson was in Georgie's, I think it is.
Gordy, I thought it was
Gordy's, yeah, Gordy's.
Gordy.
Yeah, they were playing on the same bill for a couple days, and they became friends. And if I'm not mistaken, they said Bon told AC/DC if they ever replaced him, that's the man that they should get.
That's the story. That is what that's what they're saying. He was a force to be reckoned with on stage and off stage. I heard he didn't take any shit either.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He lived the lifestyle on and off. You know.
Yeah.
On and
Yeah.
off.
He was a hard drinking man, from what they say. He could drink most people under the table, from what I understand.
Definitely.
You know, I'm sorry I had to try it, man. You know, me and my Jack Daniels, we got to do something.
Yeah. So the classic lineup of AC/DC, you know, is with Bon Scott, Angus Young, Malcolm Young, Phil Rudd, and Cliff Williams. That was like the main, you know, they did like the 3 albums. Mark Evans was in there for a while. You know, now, I mean, I think it's only Angus from the original, you know, that is.
Well, yeah. Because, you know, we lost Malcolm in 2017, wasn't it?
Yeah, a few years ago. He embodied rock and roll, and that is what I can remember. A buddy of mine, Scott Yarborough, him and I, he had a brand new Trans Am with roll bars inside the car. Anyway, we would be jamming to high voltage, and that it would shake the car. And I think that is what really said, okay, I really like these guys. And they they put it all on the stage every night, and I think that's what bands, maybe some bands don't do that nowadays. They kind of just going through the motions. But I think AC/DC every night is laying it down and putting out a great show to this day.
Yeah, I mean, look at them. They're in their 70s and they're still putting people to shame out there. I'm in my mid 50s, man, and I couldn't keep up with Angus.
Oh my God, no. He definitely took over. He electrified the blues, because I mean, he is nothing but a blues player and just putting good rock and roll to it, which is all any music is anyway, is the blues. And
right, yeah. We've said that many shows. It all comes down to that the major chords, and it's just, he perfected it.
Yeah.
But did you know that, I don't know if you know that, Guitar Magazine ranked, how they did the top 100 guitar players in history. Well, Malcolm and Angus are both ranked together at number 38 as two of the greatest guitar players alive.
Really?
Yes. They say that Malcolm is definitely, as far as rhythm guitar players, he was ranked one of the best in all in history, because he would do something that most rhythm guitar players, when they play, they'll crank up the gain on those Marshalls, just so they can be heard. But Malcolm found he turned it down.
Well, I mean, Malcolm pretty much wrote a lot of the music with the rhythm guitar, and Angus just brought his leads. I mean, he's did everything, but I'd say Malcolm was the brains behind AC/DC.
Well, yeah, he was. Did you know he actually made Angus audition?
Really?
Yeah, Angus wasn't originally in the band. He made his brother audition for the band.
Wow.
Now, could you imagine if he didn't want him in the band?
You're not that good, kid. You're just not that good.
There you go. Now, did you know that Malcolm actually had a band before AC/DC? And now most people most of our listeners might get this mixed up, but it has nothing to do with the American band name with the same name.
Really?
He was actually in a band called Velvet Underground.
Not the Velvet.
No, it wasn't the Velvet Underground with Lou Reed, but he had a band in Australia called Velvet Underground, but they were a local band. He had found out that there was another band called Velvet Underground, and he changed the name. And he was trying to figure out the name, and you seem to know where they got their name, right?
Well, yeah. Their sister, it was on the back of a sewing machine.
Yeah, on the back of a sewing machine.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because later on, I guess in an interview Angus did, he didn't realize at the time that AC/DC meant other things other than power. But we'll get it. We'll let the people figure that out on their own.
Yeah. So let's jump back to when they very first started. We were talking about George Vanda. He was he's the connection to the Young family, shared Australian music industry network. Vanda and Young were established collaborators before George Vanda and the Young family broke out.
Yeah.
So George Vanda helped him write. So they kind of created some of the songs that, in the early years. So,
yeah.
And he, what a great guy to have in your corner, someone established in Australia to help out your band.
Yeah, definitely. And now, from what I understand also, though, AC/DC's first real gig as a band was at a place called Checkers in Sydney.
Okay.
And George Young, their older brother, helped book that for a New Year's Eve gig. And that's where they really got their start, was at a place called Checkers in Sydney, just playing at a little club on New Year's Eve and everything. I do know that.
Okay. There you go. Well, they started out and they just went, we think, oh my God, they went big. No, it probably took what, 5 years for them to even get over to the United States. I mean, I remember them in about 77, I think, is when I yeah, and I heard High Voltage for the first time. That's probably my favorite album. I think that's just a pure album, front to back, no skips, just great.
That's definitely one of those albums that you don't. Every song on it could have been a number one hit, or at least in the top 10, in my opinion. Because how many albums out there you buy them for one or two songs, and then the rest are just filler.
Correct.
But AC/DC, they have a tendency on all their albums are like that, though. I know you were there for the Bon Scott years and everything like that. I really, like I said, the only album I really had ever heard was Dirty Deeds. And then later on, a friend of mine gave me Back in Black.
Oh, okay.
So that was the first, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Back in Black the first Brian Johnson album?
Correct.
Yes.
And
so
that changed. I mean, your singer passes, and then you put out that first album, and that album was, it changed everything, don't you think?
Yeah, I think they went a little more mainstream after that album because, people were just putting it out a little bit more. And it's not saying that Brian was any better than Bon, because in a lot of ways, I do believe that Bon was a better singer than Brian. But I think having the other albums backing them, when Back in Black came out, and it was such a publicized thing about Bon being gone, that people went out and bought the album expecting it, believe it or not, to be terrible. And then it turned out being, almost a dead ringer for Bon's voice style. That raspiness. Not the singing style, but the raspiness of his voice.
I like Back in Black, and then every album after that, to me, it sounds the same. And I think each album that Bon Scott did with AC/DC sounded different. There was different moods, the way he sang, soft, hard. But with Brian Johnson, it's just that, to me, I like the first album. I love AC/DC, but I'm a Bon Scott guy. That's
right.
All it is.
Well, I agree with you very much on how the album sounded alike until.
Agreed.
Until Razor's Edge, and they released Thunderstruck.
They're good. They're good for the masses. You know what I mean? But not like the nerds like me and you.
Right. Yeah. They're the purists. I will agree with you 100%. The first three or four albums for an AC/DC is a purist album, because every song is different in everything. It's almost like each album tells a story in itself, where the other albums, they seem, a little bit watered down. They're not as driving as with Bon. And I think that's because of his rebelliousness and the way he just lived the rock and roll lifestyle.
And the way he did his lyrics were very creative. He could tell a story in a few words, or tell a great story, which is what a song actually is about.
Yeah, definitely.
And he, the way he had phrasings and the way he used the guitar around words, I think is what I really, because I'm like a word person. Like Rush is my favorite band, and Metallica, and the way they put the lyrics in there and arrange them, and that is what I like, a good written song. And I think that the Bon Scott era, all the albums were just perfection.
Yeah, I agree with you on that 100%, because if you now thinking back to it, back on the first few albums, when Angus and Malcolm were playing along with Bon singing, it was almost like their guitars were singing. You know what I'm saying? They were harmonizing with it. Now it's just them playing a nice hard pop, like you said. Every other song is just a nice hard power chord. I mean, don't get me wrong; they're great songs. I put on an AC/DC song, floor, I'm gone. I'm doing 120 in no minute, no minute. You know, no time flat. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
But with Bon Scott on the albums, like I said, it was almost like Angus's guitar and him were talking in unison.
They were in sync together. The songs were just different. These are like they're just sound like it's just a wall of guitar now, and with some screeching vocals over the top. Like I said, I like the first Back in Black was great. It was different. It was unique. The way he sang, though, you know, the pop in the guitar, the crunch. It sounded Mutt Lange. I mean, Mutt Lange did a great job with that album, and then. You know, I think he actually did Back in Black too, but it was a different wall of sound. It wasn't a distinctive, like, I don't know. It's hard to explain the difference between Highway to Hell and Back in Black. The guitar, the mood, I don't know.
Yeah, and I will I will admit to 100%. I bought Fly on the Wall. I listened to it. I threw it out my car window.
Really?
Swear to God, I hated that album. I couldn't stand it. The only halfway decent song on the whole album was Who Made Who. You know?
Yeah. I mean, everybody goes through their downward, and then they get a hit, and then everyone's like, oh my God, I love them all, But it's really hard to write albums, one a year. We're going to put out an album a year, then we're going to tour for 2 years. We're going to put out another album, then we're going to tour for 2 years. And then they started slowing it down. But honestly, every album, the last ones sort of all basically sounded the same to me.
Yeah, I do agree with you on that 100%. But it's the same, one thing I did notice the last time I did I went and seen AC/DC, I got to admit that it's so refreshing being in a crowd of people and seeing people my age, seeing people older than me, and then seeing people that are younger than my daughters,
like-minded people.
Like I said, there's a lot of people out there that couldn't tell you, like, I got somebody in my life that loves music, but couldn't tell you the first person in a band, but she could tell you AC/DC just by the sound of a voice,
Well, like people like me, when you and I go to a concert, we're like, that's not the original bass player. That ain't the original singer. That's not that guy came in 1984. Even though he's been in the band for 30 years, he's not the original. We're those nerds.
Right. But the one thing you got to admit about AC/DC, for some reason they have trouble keeping drummers.
Yeah, they're the Spinal Tap of drummers.
Yeah, I've seen them like 6 different times, and each time they've had a different drummer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they had Mark Evans? No, I keep saying Mark Evans.
Yeah.
But they had the bald guy who toured.
Yeah, actually, the bald guy. Oh my God, I can't remember his name. It's funny. He played with the Sin City All Stars, which was my good friend Todd Kearns. He came in and played drums for them for a little bit, and then he was just a hired gun basically. And that's what he said about AC/DC. He was just a hired gun.
Chris Slade.
Okay. Yes, Chris.
Carmen Appice played with AC/DC. I did not know that. Colin Burgess and Phil Rudd were the 4 drummers.
Okay.
Yeah. They had they did a great job. I think everyone coming in right now, I believe the rhythm guitar player that replaced Malcolm is a cousin. I think he does
yes.
He's their rhythm guitar player. I think it is Cliff Williams, still bass player.
Mm-hmm.
and Brian Johnson, Angus, and you know what? Those songs are gonna live forever. You know?
Yeah, they will always, always, always be there. You know, it's like I said, you know, we've said so many times on this show about bands that had lasting effects and bands that were flash in the pan. I believe it now, and I will say it 20 years from now, people will still be listening and buying AC/DC memorabilia.
Well, the little horns and the hat and the schoolboy. I think that's such a great gimmick. You know, you can sell the hell out of that. Which they have.
Yeah. I think I actually had one of Angus's hats that had the horns on it when I was younger.
Oh, really?
I want to say I had one. A friend of mine went to a concert and bought me a friend of my dad's. Actually, he went to the concert and bought me that hat.
Oh, nice.
Because he went to the concert. It was funny. It's a funny story. It was kind of one of those things that just things aligned right. He knew I was going as a devil for Halloween, and he went to the show right before Halloween, and he saw that, and he bought that. He goes, "Here, you can have a hat with horns on it for your costume." You know.
Hey, and I'm sure your dad was playing AC/DC for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, my dad, I got to admit, God rest his soul, he was a big influence on my music career. And not only my music.
How was that?
My dad, he started playing guitar when he was younger, and he taught guitar. So he put my first guitar in my hands.
Ah.
And then he turned me on to music that he listened to. And I remember my dad was the first person that ever played Led Zeppelin for me, and Black Sabbath, and Creedence Clearwater, and Buffalo Springfield. But not only that, he also listened to people like Pablo Cruz.
Ah, okay.
And then
well-rounded.
It was well-rounded music. So he always told me there's no such thing as bad music. It's just whether you like it or not.
That's true.
So he was a big influence on me. And you want to hear something I love this about my dad? The first guitar he ever gave me, which ties into our show today, was a 1962 Gibson SG.
Wow.
Burgundy, just like Angus.
I have one of those. I have a 79 Gibson SG, just same red color myself.
Yeah. Did you know what he has to do now for his guitars? Well, you know how most guitar players, we wear wireless packs on our straps.
Right.
Well, Angus, he sweats so much during the show, because I've seen him duck walk all the way across the stage and back again, never stops bopping his head, never stops moving. He would sweat so much that he would short out his wireless packs.
Really?
So they had to come up with an idea. They hollow out the inside of his SGs, and they put his wireless packs inside the guitar. So he wouldn't sweat on them. Because they could cover that with plexiglass.
Wow.
And that's how he kept, because if you ever notice him on stage, he never has a wireless pack on.
I'd have to look. Obviously, I didn't see one.
Right.
Wow.
And also, he's also the first guitar player to do a striptease on stage. But that's another story.
Yeah. All right.
For anybody out there who's never seen AC/DC, Angus does a strip show in the middle of the concert.
Usually during what? A Whole Lot of Rosie?
Yeah, a Whole Lot of Rosie. He goes down to his boxers.
Yeah. Well, there's AC/DC is what, the top grossing act at this point right now? I would think in 2026. Biggest band around touring right now.
Yeah, I think the only band that even competes with them is Metallica.
True. But Metallica never went off the road. They're road warriors. They're always.
Yeah, they've been on the road for 10 years.
No shit. I was reading about There's a band around here called Y&T. It's a local Bay Area band. Yesterday,
I know Y&T very well.
Dave Medichetti. I guess they were touring back in like 1976 with AC/DC, and Bon Scott said he didn't want to be on the AC/DC bus. He wanted to go party with Y&T because it was much funner.
Okay, there you go. That's saying something right there.
Yeah, and he also jumped in a jellyfish, in an ocean with jellyfish, and that did not turn out very well for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so.
And they toured with Queen, and they said they had everything in the world thrown at them. Bread, bottles, everything, lighters. They learned to dodge very well on that tour. So imagine going on tour back in the early, the 70s, when it was just kind of pick up a tour. If your album started doing well, you got on a better tour. If your album started crapping out, you got on a crappy tour.
And AC/DC in the 70s, they were the opening act for like Susie Quantrill.
Oh, yeah.
And if any of us y'all don't know who that is, any of our listeners don't know, that was actually not Pinky Tuscadero. What was her name on Happy Days?
It was Pinky Tuscadero.
Was it Pinky?
Yeah,
she was Pinky Tuscadero on Happy Days. And also AC/DC, didn't they open for Alice Cooper for a while too in the 70s?
That I'm not very sure, but I know they pretty much jumped on any tour that that they could. Well, they were coming from Australia.
Yeah, definitely. But then then they took off, and they had people like Def Leppard and ZZ Top opening for them.
Well, yeah. At first, they probably were the opening band, and then by they toured with Guns N' Roses, Metallica, the Black Crowes, Tesla, the Rolling Stones, Rat, Skid Row, The Cult, Faith No More, Queens of the Stone Age, Kiss,
Fastway, White Lion,
Glenn Hughes. Those are some of the
those. I mean, they were just phenomenal. I mean, and the energy, like you said, that Bon Scott on stage and the young brothers that they brought, it almost like they had, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, it almost made like the headlining bands have to step their game up.
Oh my, definitely. Like when Van Halen opened for Black Sabbath, they were like, uh-oh, here comes a band that's, and with the wall of sound that AC/DC created with, three guys, Malcolm, Angus, and a bass player, and then everything else was just icing on the cake. They toured with The Cult, Motley Crue, The Answer, Gun, Danko Jones. We interviewed Danko Jones. Jet, Twin Atlantic, The Pretty Reckless, The Darkness, Wolfmother. I mean, these guys have pretty much taken everyone under their wing, and then in the beginning, people took them under their wing, and
right. And what I really think is phenomenal about AC/DC is, nowadays, you remember Poison? They were a big arena rock band, right? Now, in a few weeks, we're going to the Whiskey to see Ricky Rocket play the Whiskey A Go-Go Unit.
Right.
I've seen Bret Michaels play in local dive bars here in Las Vegas, but AC/DC has never stopped playing arenas.
Agreed.
They've always, for 50 years, have been selling out arenas. That's got to say something, which brings us into our next step into 6 Degrees of Malcolm
that's
and
right.
Angus.
And Angus, yeah. Definitely. They, who were their influences, and you're going to go back to the blues. You're always going to go back.
Chuck Berry.
Yep.
Angus has said Chuck Berry was a huge influence on him.
Yep.
Chuck Berry, Little Richard, all that those were the people that AC/DC were listening to, and they just turned it up. And like we have been said, and one of our biggest things that we say, he put his own stank on it.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. And that's the beauty of a guitar, that you can put whatever the hell it's what you got in you and what you could get out of that guitar. Because, you know, you hand me a guitar and I'll go bink-a-dink-a-dink-a-dink, but you hand Angus Young or, you know, Malcolm when he was around, oh my God, they could create just magic.
Yeah, and what I love about Angus is he's another one of those guitar players. He didn't use a lot of pedal.
No.
Every sound he got by manipulating the guitar strings, manipulating the neck, manipulating the way he held it towards the amplifiers. That's how he got his sounds.
Well, you think about each guitar player, you know, James Hetfield plays this way. It's the touch. It's the both hands. It's, you know, the guitar. And Angus, to me, has just never changed. It's that same tone. It's that Marshall. It's that SG, and that is the signature, you know, sound for AC/DC.
Yeah, and like most people don't realize that Malcolm, he would play with his rhythms. He would play with really thick Gibson flat wound strings, just to get the sound that he wanted. And like I said, he would take the gain on his Marshall, and instead of turning it up like everybody else, he turned it all the way off.
All the gain, and let the strings and the amps do all the work for himself. He didn't want that distortion. He wanted that more warm, vibrant sound, that deep moan for the rhythm guitar. You know what I'm saying? He didn't want that high-end gain. He didn't want the crunch. That was Angus's job. Yeah, their big influences were Chuck Berry and Little Richard. I mean, what else are you going to learn more from those two great artists?
Right, yeah, because they were phenomenal musicians in their own rights. You know, I remember one of the first songs I ever learned how to play was a Chuck Berry tune. Now, granted, it was a kind of a funny song. That's why I learned it. Could you guess what song it is?
AC/DC song, Bon Scott?
No, I'm talking about the first guitar song I ever really learned how to play. It was a Chuck Berry song.
Well,
And it was a funny song.
Tutti Frutti.
Huh?
Tutti Frutti.
Nope. That's Little Richard. No, my first Chuck Berry song I ever learned how to play was My Ding-a-Ling. And I'm still playing with My Ding-a-Ling. God damn it.
It never ends. It just never ends.
So, see, people, we will talk about anything and everything on the air, won't we?
Yeah, I mean, your early influences, you know, change everything. Bo Diddley, the Rolling Stones, and then, you know, I think every guitar player tries to emulate their idol, and then they take it to the next step, and that's definitely what AC/DC did.
Yeah, because you know, like we were just saying, every guitar player, the way they play, it's like a fingerprint. Everybody's fingerprints are different. I can play the same notes with the same equipment, the same everything that Angus has, but I will not play it identical to Angus.
No,
because I just don't have the feeling that he has in his fingers. You know, the way he manipulates his guitar. You know, I can try, but I will never be an Angus Young. And Angus was a very big influence on my playing. We all know my biggest influence, of course, was Ace. But in the same token, a lot of it was the way Angus played. You know, where it was no nonsense. It had a flair to it, but it wasn't flashy. If that makes sense.
Not flashy.
Yeah, it wasn't real flashy, but it sounded that way. But it was simplistic. Right. But at the same token, it was groundbreaking. Oh. I learned through Angus that less was more.
Well, you know, you don't have to play 1,000 notes. You could play 120. you know?
Right. You know, a lot of the guitar players back in the 80s, you know, they'd start doing their solos, and I'm sorry, it'd sound like a little bee all over the neck. Angus's weren't like that. It was just he would take the scale, get where he wanted to get, and he would put some feeling into it. And you could feel when he played it, you could feel the passion in his playing.
Oh, definitely. And I think that cuts through all the bullshit, and you know, the consumers can cut through the crap and say these guys are kick ass. These guys, you know, they're not fake. They're not trying. It's the real deal with AC/DC.
Right.
And I think, I mean, the first albums, you know, the first Bon Scott stuff, and then I you know, honestly, they get, you know, they got Back in Black, and then everything. I actually saw an interview with Angus, and they said, you know, people are saying that your last 13 albums all sound the same, and he goes, oh, no, the last 14 albums have all sounded the same. So,
yeah,
but you know, they just keep going, and as long as people are buying tickets, buying albums, buying, you know, going to the concerts like they're doing right now, they're kicking ass. They're taking over. And you know, Angus I mean, how old is that guy? He's got to be 75.
Got to be in his 70s, mid 70s.
Yeah, definitely. He
you know, and just, you know, I judge bands on, you know, they say that what do you call it?
71. He's 71.
He's 71. Yeah, okay. But you know, to copy somebody is the biggest form of flattery.
Agreed. I do agree.
I can literally count over dozens of AC/DC tribute bands that I've gone to see. And they're full tribute bands where they dress like AC/DC. They try to sound identical to them. And I will agree. I will tell you this. I have a friend of mine, you know, Keith Robert War. He has LVDC out here. It's one of the best tribute bands. He does the Brian Johnson eras. Okay, which I love. But the other day, a few months back, I saw a band called High Voltage, and they did the Bon Scott years, and it was phenomenal.
No,
because I had never really seen any of the Bon Scott stuff performed live. You know what I'm saying?
Well, here's my connection. I joined a Bon Scott cover band probably about 8-9 years ago, and basically my band opened up for them. And and then during our crowd that was watching our band was a little wild, doing, you know, pit and stuff. So anyway, we were all still there when they went on, and one of our friends hit the guitar player's amp, and he got all pissy, and he said, if you do it one more time, I'm leaving. And he did it again.
I'd have done it on purpose.
And then during the frickin' song, the rhythm guitar player packed his shit and left. So, and we're all kind of going, is this really happening? Is he leaving? And he took his stuff and stormed off. So they're like, hey, we need a rhythm guitar player. Scott, do you want to play guitar? And I'm like, sure. And sure,
let's ask the bass player to play guitar.
Exactly. And then they're like, okay, learn these 10 songs. And I'm like, okay. So I learned the 10 songs pretty much, you know. And it was actually really cool because I know the songs by heart. I know, you know, but I didn't know what the notes were. So learning them was very fun, very entertaining, because I only, you know, I just listened to it. I didn't learn them, and that was very fun. And so I went and tried out, and they're like, okay, we got a gig in next week. You got to learn 12 more songs. And it's like, oh my God. I think I learned about 10 more. So anyway, it was very fun because didn't know how to play the damn song, and now I do. And I think that really helped understand that that's just not A, B, C, and really easy crap. It's a lot of different time signatures and, chord changes right in the middle. You think you just play a chord and you're going to another one. And, it was really fun. I really enjoyed the whole AC/DC experience till I got kicked out of the band.
Well, a lot of people, they believe, I will tell any guitar player out there, if you are playing Thunderstruck and you are finger tapping the intro, you are doing it wrong.
Oh, yeah? Why?
Angus does not finger tap the intro. He actually picks the intro.
On Thunderstruck, huh?
Yes. It sounds like he's finger tapping. He's not. He's actually picking every note. He's just moving that left hand like lightning.
All right. Let's pick out your favorite, give me top AC/DC Bon Scott era, songs.
Gotta be Big Balls, Dirty Deeds, and and Long Way to the Top. Those are my favorites.
Those your favorite?
Yeah.
I like some of the early ones, like Dog Eat Dog. That's off of the what one was that? That's Let There Be Rock.
Yeah.
And I like the obscure ones, because those are the ones that I remember, that really High Voltage. The whole album's great. Power Age was like an album that kind of came under the radar. Everyone liked the Let There Be Rock, and then Power Age came out, and I thought that was, they kind of changed their style, like What's Next to the Moon, Kicked in the Teeth Again, Sin City. Everybody loves that one.
Oh yeah, Sin City. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you got Riff Raff. You got just so many great. That's it's hard for me to put them up there as my favorites. I think Let There Be Rock or High Voltage, or those are like my two favorite. But
also, and I forgot one really. Who can forget Whole Lot of Rosie?
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a really fun one to play. Whole Lot of Rosie. And my favorite one to play live is I'm trying to think of it. Is it High Voltage?
My favorite one to play live was the Jack.
Very good little bluesy number there.
Yeah, you know me though. I love playing the blues, so yeah. But playing the Jack, yeah, it was always fun. It was kind of like a mellow, in your face song,
Right. Very true.
Yeah. So
I really.
And then, it's just those Bon Scott years. You're so right. The songs are so different, and they had so much soul and feeling to them.
Agreed.
Versus now. You listen to Thunderstruck, it's a great song. But then at the same token, you listen to Safe in New York City, and it's basically the same song.
Right. Very true. Very, very true. They're all, it sounds like a giant wall of music with no breaks or anything. It's just like, and then the Bon Scott stuff were actually blues oriented songs.
Yeah, I would love the way he would just break it down and go from singing and breaking down to just talking in the song. And you're like, that was so awesome the way he just made that transition, and he made it so smooth, and you couldn't imagine it any other way. You know what I'm saying?
Agreed.
It was just the way he did it. He spent years perfecting it, and we will never have another Bon Scott.
I agree. My favorite song to play is Live Wire. Live Wire, it's the opening one we used to play, and the whole place would just go crazy. I mean, songs like "Can I Sit Next to You, Girl?" I mean, that's the mode. He was always chasing women, or drinking, or talking about hell. a lot of hell. She's Got Balls, Little Lover. I mean, they all had that mood to it, and that is what I think is different from the Brian Johnson era. There's not a mood, in my opinion. Only in my opinion.
Yeah. And I actually remember seeing a live, like a little live clip. I forgot what show it was on. It was an Australian show. Bon Scott was actually out there dressed in a dress with yellow pigtails.
Really?
And Angus was in a gorilla suit.
Now, where was this?
It was on some TV show in Australia. I just happened to see it on YouTube. Last week, I was flipping through looking for stuff on AC/DC and everything, and that popped up. I don't remember what else show it was.
I think it was the video. Yeah, Bon Scott has pigtails, and Angus is. Yeah, I think that's Dirty Deeds, isn't it?
It might be.
It might. I do think it's Dirty Deeds. But I personally am a big fan of the Bon Scott because that's what I grew up. That, you know what I mean? I was 15, 16, 17 years old, just hungry for just something that everybody wasn't into. You know what I mean? That was
right.
I always like to be a little different.
Yeah, there will never ever be another AC/DC. Once Angus decides to hang it up, we're going to lose one of the greatest rock bands in history. You know, they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They've won every type of award you could have won. They've been in their soundtracks have been in countless movies. You know, which brings us to the next show we do, because I don't know if you want to tell our listeners or not, we're taking a week off. Yeah. Scott's going out of town. I'm going out of town. But a good friend of mine suggested that we do our next show on videos, how they've changed over the years, and different music, how the movies and music are influenced by all that stuff. And maybe doing a 6 Degrees of Separation to one of the most famous movie bands in history. People know them more for their movie band name versus their real name.
True. Yeah.
And that is Eddie and the Cruisers and John Cafferty.
Yeah, that was a great movie. And that John Cafferty, if you didn't know that it was Eddie and the Cruisers movie, you would just think it was a movie soundtrack. But no. John Cafferty.
But yeah, that whole show, I got to say, was suggested by somebody real special to me. So we got to do it for him.
There you go. All right, we talked about AC/DC Bon Scott era with the great pounding guitar. Angus Young. You got Malcolm, rest in peace. And I think that was just an era that you had to live through to actually, appreciate it. I mean, you can appreciate the music now, but being there and experience them, I think, something special.
Yeah, that's where I'm jealous of you, my brother.
Yeah, I saw him at a Day on the Green with, it was Saint Paradise, Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush, AC/DC, Aerosmith, well, horrible, and Ted Nugent. And I feel very lucky to have saw him before he passed. And here's a quick story. We got to go. We used to listen to a pirate radio station, and back then, and we were listening, and the DJ said that Bon Scott had died. And we're like, what? So I called the local radio station, the big station, and I said, hey, did you hear Bon Scott died? And the guy's like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. Click. And then the next day, the guy gets on the radio and he says, some guy called me yesterday and said that Bon Scott had passed. And I'm like, that was me. So anyway, that was me, but you never know. And, let's just put this out there. One of the quotes from Bon Scott, it keeps you fit. The alcohol, nasty women, sweat on the stage, bad food. It's all very good for you.
Yeah, just ask Keith Richards, Bon Scott, everybody.
All right, Rob Cardozi, thank you so much for the professor of knowledge of music, of everything. And Scott Reese here. We are going to be everywhere. Check out The Rabbit Hole with Cardozi and Reese, and we will see you on the next show. Thank you all for listening.
Peace out.
Peace out.